Hey everybody, this is Brian from The Second Look. Today I'm talking to Justin Hollis. Justin, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, we want to know about you and your filmmaking career so far. So I guess start us with the beginning. What was there a moment that you decided filmmaking is for me, a film or filmmaker maybe that you saw? What was the spark?
Well, I recently graduated from college last year in May with a degree in film studies and animal studies. I originally went there for marine science. And then during the orientation, they were talking about like the requirements you have to do and the classes you have to take. They're like, you have to take calculus one, chemistry one. I said, okay, I'll just stop you there. That's not for me. I had previously done photography since high school. I was on like the yearbook. I was like, there's no photography like minor. I was a minor in film, but once I decided not to do marine science, I was like, I'll just make it into a film major, which same thing, but it's definitely not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just started doing film from there, and I just quickly fell in love with it, the analysis and the production. In high school, we had to do like a modern retelling of Macbeth, I think, and we made like a little short film about it. And I had so much fun doing it and watching
Mm,
everybody doing it. And so I think that's where I just really started falling into the love for filmmaking.
interesting. Yeah, interesting that you kind of started with photography. Obviously, image making in any form, there's a lot of overlap there. There's a lot of cross pollination, and where did the photography come from?
Uh, I've always liked telling stories in a way, and I just love like capturing images, just looking out, seeing like different things, noticing the sunset here, or like a tree or a little
Yeah,
statue that looks interesting.
right.
And so start getting into like more photos. And then I always also want like a record, something that like I could show later on down
Yeah,
life, have a record for stuff that I see.
interesting. Yeah, okay. So you clearly have an eye, like in that sense, right? Like you're an observer. You're a very visual person. I can tell. Yeah, and the idea of seeing something interesting, wanting to capture it, document it, uh,
Mhm.
tell a story. Seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, seems like you've got like all of the ingredients to be a visual storyteller,
Yeah.
and just seemingly kind of naturally, like you didn't. It's just the kind of
Mhm.
where you went. It was not. No one forced you, or nothing. Nothing was really pushing you in that direction. You just kind of went in that direction, right?
Yeah, no, definitely very much so.
Hmm. Well, that's great because having that natural inclination towards anything,
Mhm.
um, for one, maybe doesn't happen for everybody. Maybe like your true calling, it doesn't really come out.
Right.
You have to find it, and people struggle with that search, and it takes them
Mhm.
years sometimes to figure it out. So you definitely have a head start on a lot of people, and that's a really good thing. Seems seems like uh, you were set up for film school, um, with the photography, and you went right in. So you just graduated.
Mhm.
So you sent a short film that we're gonna include in the description for people to
Right.
watch.
Awesome.
And I watched it, and I thought it was really good. Really,
Thank you.
yeah, like I was really impressed. And so tell me before I start spouting off about it,
Right.
where did that? Is that a school project? Is that a post school project? And kind of where did that come from?
So funnily enough, that was from my intro to film, first like production film class I took. That was like our final project.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of Murphy's Law, like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. I was living that experience with that
Yeah.
film project. Like I originally had plans for stuff, and then I originally had like more actors into it, and everybody had to cancel last minute. And the funny thing about them canceling, they all like pretty much said the same thing. They're like, I have like a family emergency. And that's like one of the things you can't really call people out on. You can't be like, no, you don't, because like, you can't really prove or disprove that. So I just had to accept it. Ended up acting it myself. And no, it's just like the final film. I came up with it with my friend Spencer. He was my roommate. And this was like in my sophomore year. My first year, I was trying to get into intro film. The class filled up so quickly. So finally, when I got into it my second year, I was just ready to go.
Yeah.
And it just took off. I had my friend, he was my cinematographer and DP, Sky. He was a senior at that time, and he took me under his wing. He helped me figure some things out with the whole camera and setting everything. And it just turned out so much better than I could have expected.
Yeah, okay. All right. Great. There's a lot. There's some questions here. So just for people are going to watch it, I assume, but in case you haven't, basically it's a series of single shots of your character in an environment, and then a voiceover from a voicemail playing over it. So you had actors or an actor to play the main character, but did you have other actors? Like, were these scenes going to be like shot instead of voicemails, or what was the plan? What was the original plan?
So the original plan was always to have like voicemails and everything.
Okay.
And I think the funniest thing, I like came up with the idea because I was just scrolling through TikTok one day and I heard this lady, her name's Amber, she's in the movie, and she plays the mom. And I just heard she has like this thing that she does every time. She goes like hey baby or something. It's like very motherly. And I heard that. I was like, that'd be like a great like a phone call. And so I randomly just like commented under her TikTok that, hey, would you be down to like voice act in a short film, not really expecting much from it. She said, yeah, sure. And so once I got that response, it's like, okay, so this is something that's actually like achievable, reaching out to people that I don't know. And
Yeah.
once people like realize, oh, this is something like I can do, then it's like motivates you more. So I started reaching out to some more people, and then a few people I had to like hire for like freelancing to do like voiceovers. But
Mhm.
I originally had somebody else was going to play like the main actor instead of me.
Okay.
And then at the end, without like giving away too much, like one of the people he's like calling to, or who he gets like a voicemail from, is his girlfriend, and we're gonna have a second shot of like the girlfriend at the end of the film.
Mm-mm.
She canceled, so I just like cut it out entirely, and people actually liked the ending better than what I had originally anticipated.
Yeah. Yep. I think I'll agree. I'll be another one of those people who thinks that your whole movie, well, the strength of it is the isolation of this character. Is that there's just them, no one else. You hear them, but they're not there. So yeah, I think that was a happy accident, as they say. It's it's amazing. Like, the story of them shooting Jaws, right?
Yeah,
Like, they had this big mechanical shark that they built and
right.
they engineered, and they wanted it to be much more present in the movie, like visibly, physically present in the movie, and it wasn't working. They decide, let's just like shoot around it, or like let's cut those shots, or let's use those yellow barrels to signal where the shark is without having to
Yeah.
show it. Like, it totally made that movie, right?
Mhm,
Like,
yes.
such a strong choice. So I think you and Steven Spielberg have a lot in common in that you found a setback or a limitation and
Mhm.
found a creative solution around it and made it a stronger piece because of it. So the lesson for me and for anyone watching should be to have a plan, but not if it falls through, that's not the end of the world. There's probably
Yes.
a creative solution out of it, out of the problem, and it might even be a better option.
Yes.
Embrace those moments.
Yes, def
Okay, I want the other thing that I really loved about the movie. It's not just a single character in isolation, but the actual shot choices that you made, the
Mhm.
framing, the focus, um, shallow focus in the beginning,
Mhm.
and then you rack focus to him in bed. So you're dealing with isolation inside the frame.
You're right.
You're isolating the foreground and background, with
Mhm.
focus. There's a shot where characters framed through a window in a door. It's like, that's awesome. That is all we need to know about that character in that moment. I think the voiceovers are nice because they provide some color to the story and to the character. We get some backstory. We get a lot of detail that way. But honestly, if you took the voiceover out completely, we wouldn't. We'd have less information, but
Right. Yes.
we would know exactly what's going on with this character,
Yes.
essentially. And
Yes.
that's the sign of strong visual storytelling. So, yeah, very, very commendable what you did. I do think that your background in photography is on display here. I think what you were describing earlier about seeing something interesting, thinking about it, wanting to capture it, wanting to tell a story, I think that's already working for you really well. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, all right. So tell me more about film school. Do you mind telling me either like where you are, the general area, or maybe the specific film school?
So I would call it less of like a film school because like originally I went there for marine science. So it was number 4 at the time. It was number 4 in the nation for marine science. So the school is Eckerd College up in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's like a hour from Tampa. And the funny thing is I signed up and like signed the papers and said I'm going there before I even toured the school. Like I knew I was like, this is the place I want to go to before. And then I did like the tour of the campus and I was like, this is even better, like better than I imagined. And no, yeah, it was great. I always say like when you're learning film, you don't necessarily need to go to like a film school there. Especially nowadays, almost everything you learn in film school, you can learn on YouTube, to be honest. I always say if I didn't go to there, I would have still been trying to do marine science. And I probably would have, I would have enjoyed it as much as I do film. And just the people and my professors were just such great helps in me figuring out what I want to do and who I am.
Yeah, that I like what you said because I think that's the film school or not film school debate. I think is it's always been there, right? Even before the ability to just post things on YouTube, before YouTube existed,
Right.
people have been debating film school and the value of it and the purpose of it for years. The conversation has shifted, like the arguments have shifted because the possibilities, the options have shifted. But I think what you're describing about, like, you could have learned filmmaking elsewhere, but correct me if I'm wrong, because this sounds like me. I need some structure. I need somebody to tell me, okay, that you need to do this and you need to finish it by this date, and you need to, I don't work very well without those constraints. So would you say that worked for you as well? Like the organization of it is maybe was the main benefit beyond obviously learning how to make a film or whatever, but which you could have done elsewhere, but that was the real benefit of going to film school for you.
No, definitely. I would say I'm more of a hands-on learner. Like, while some people, like I said, they could learn online, read a textbook. That works in theory, but for me, I'll understand it. But until I'm there and actually using my hands to do something, it won't stay in the mind. You know what I mean? Like I could learn about ISO and white balance and stuff, but unless I'm out in the field, then I'm like, okay, now it's overexposed, underexposed. Now I know what to do. So being able to do that, and I am a prisoner to procrastination, I must say. So having someone there with like due dates, like, okay, Justin, you have to get this done at this time and whatnot. It was like, okay, so I really have to focus and lock in for some of these things.
Totally. I think it's such a key part of the film school conversation because, like you said, you could learn film anywhere. So you can learn it here, you can learn it here. So those balances out, or that negates itself. Like now, what else is there that are in the pros and cons list? And one of the pros, I think, for a lot of people, a lot of creative people, the procrastination thing, for me it's I'm in my head all the time with ideas. I get like lured in by an idea, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like really excited about it, and
Right.
maybe I start working on it, but then this other little idea like pops in like over here, and it's like cooler and newer and shinier, and no, that's so then I put this one to the side. I go after that one, and then it's just a cycle where nothing gets done because you're working in your head so much. So yeah, you need an assignment, you need a deadline. There's
Yeah.
grades involved. You need the responsibility of like tuition. Like I'm paying money, like, and I can't.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
I need to get something. Yeah. So those other factors outside of just learning how to be a filmmaker is something that people should really consider when deciding if they need film school or not.
Mhm.
That's great. Are you still in that area of Florida now?
No, I'm in the Miami area where I'm based, live.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. So I'm always curious about like people who aren't in LA, right?
Mhm.
Or New York or one of any of the like the major hubs. Like what's the film community, what's the film culture like near you? How are you kind of working within that environment these days?
Um, I'm still trying to find a community. I think it's very sparse. There's like some people who do film, and it's a little spread out. Like everybody comes to like Miami, they want to do. It's more like the content creation down here, I would say.
Mm, mm,
So trying to do like a full short film or like have a full cast and crew. There's not that much
mm,
down here. I'm still trying to figure out. There's some like events, some film networking nights that I've seen.
okay.
It's just trying to figure out people, trying to find people who are like really into, because I feel like film, a huge part of it is networking. And I feel like once you find like those one or two people, they introduce you to like the other few people that they know that do film
Yep.
and everything.
Yep.
So it's very
Yeah.
limited.
Yeah, that's tough because unlike many of the other arts, this is a collaborative art, and you need people.
Mhm.
You could do the Robert Rodriguez thing and just do everything yourself, which is not very feasible. I think he's superhuman in that regard. But yeah, you need people. Have you sometimes like a strategy I tend to share with people is instead of waiting for other people or trying to find other people who what they might be doing to somehow like announce your own stuff, like like promote your next project, being like, hey, I've got this script, like put it out there, like who might be interested, putting, I guess, the being a little bit more, I don't know how to say it, like proactive thing, letting the collaborators come to you rather than, I know you're on TikTok, right? So like that would be great format, a great medium to get your stuff out there to build that community. And I'm doing that myself with the second look, trying to build a community. So how's that going? How is it using TikTok and YouTube and things to get the word out and get your stuff seen?
I think it's pretty good. Especially with TikTok. It's one of the few platforms that actually like promotes their product and their videos and everything, like without having to search for something specific. I would say just right now, it's like I'm finding more people. The funny thing is, when I was up in college, it was like difficult to find people that had all these ideas. But now that like I am finding more people and like getting more connections, like it's like, yeah, I want to work together. It's like, okay, well, I don't really have any ideas right now, so now I have to start pumping out ideas,
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
back and figure out like those past ideas that I like put off to the side, trying to figure out where I wrote them down. Old notebook that I used to write the ideas in, try and find that. So make it feasible, especially on like such a short budget. Because I used to write scripts as if I had $1 million budget. Like I have
Uh,
one script. It's like he's in a mansion. He's got these traps. It's like in the midst of Home Alone and Knives Out. It's like, okay, now if I actually want to shoot that, I'm having trouble finding a house. Trying to like take these big ideas I had, making them feasible, and then just getting these ideas out and working with people. So yeah, I think nowadays just figuring out how to build yourself up. One of the things people always like to see portfolio, everything. I think it's sort of like a catch-22. Like they want to see your experience, but then like the only way to get experience is to actually start working. Is they're hiring people with more experience. So it's like sort of like how like when you try to go to like an entry level job, they're like, oh yeah, we need like a 5 years of experience. You're like, okay, well, I'm trying to get 5 years of experience. I can't get that. But
Totally.
yeah, I just try to push out wherever I can, like literally
Hmm.
testing, um, testing random things on myself. Just literally turn the camera on me the other day, just film like one little thing, throwing it down on YouTube, color grading, testing things out, and try and build up that portfolio.
Right. So that's great. I like that you said that because the work should never stop.
Mhm.
And no matter what your situation is, where you're living, if you have a budget, anything like that, like the work, the 10,000 hours that you keep hearing about, like that should never stop. And I'm glad to hear that you haven't, even though it's tough finding people and putting maybe a crew together. But no, because once you're doing all the stuff that all the prep work, I guess, for when that does happen, and
Mhm.
kind of like what you described about, you know, that first year of college, not being able to do much, but then you were pent up, and like second year, it's like, bam, you hit the ground running and you're ready to go. I think that's a really good lesson for people is that, yeah, the work never stops. I can't
Yes.
say it any better than that. And I also like what you're saying about like setting yourself up with a project that's actually feasible, right?
Mhm.
Budget and budget, crew, equipment, those things are not obstacles, or they shouldn't be. Like those there's nothing getting in the way of a good idea.
Mhm.
And I think even if you found this for yourself in Leave a Message, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a project you can do.
Yes.
You could you were one actor, you're clearly using locations you had access to,
Mhm.
and then the voiceovers you can find now on the internet, and you can just have them record and they send you files, and that's it.
Yes.
That's really key, like to get that motivation sorry, that momentum
Mhm.
on a project. When you, like you said before, once you know you can do it, it's like there's nothing getting in the way. But we like to imagine
Right.
the biggest canvas possible, and then when that gets stuck, when we can't proceed with that,
Mhm.
it's harmful. Like it slows you
Mhm.
down. It takes the joy out of it. So find, I guess, the other lesson here that we're circling here is make sure you can actually do it, and then do it. I also like love this advice of making it short, and because that's another factor. Don't if you're in a situation you're in, don't write
Mhm.
a feature. Don't don't have an ensemble cast. Don't have stunts or anything like that. Like short, simple. Like find a story that like is in an area you want to get into. Like let's say you're westerns. Write a little western and do like a little scene. Because then you will have that practice, that experience, and then that will build up along the way, so that when you do finally get that chance, you are ready to go.
Yes, definitely. And I think finding joy in the journey is something that's really like imperative. I think figuring out problem solving is one. Sometimes it's fun for me. Like it's frustrating in the moment. And the thing that I've like noticed is I let myself be frustrated, angry for like a minute. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I gotta start thinking about how to pivot. You know what I mean? Like if everybody like on my crew is looking towards me and they see that I'm upset at everything, it can make them feel bad. I was working on my senior thesis film. I was working with like an actual crew and actors and everything. And, I wanted to get a shot at Blue Hour, and the actor, he was running late. So we ended up missing Blue Hour. I was there, my crew was there, and I really wanted this shot, and I was a little mad. So I had to step away for a second. I was mad, let myself be mad. You have to let yourself feel the things. You can't bottle it up inside, because then you just end up spewing that out onto people who didn't deserve it. So let myself get rid of those feelings, and then came back. He was like, "I'm so sorry, I'm late." I was like, "It's totally cool. We can shoot it later. Worst case scenario, I can color correct it." So I was just like, and it turned out really good with my senior thesis. I just something I was able to pivot on.
Mm, that's a great story. Unfortunately, I mean, I know that wasn't. I'm sure you wouldn't want to hear that at the moment, but you came out of that. Well, you found the cooler head, and you
Mhm.
took you thought of creative solutions like color correcting,
Mhm.
and that's a skill. You need to know how to operate a camera. You need to know how to set up a light. Okay. You also
Mhm.
need to learn how to deal with catastrophe, or
Yeah.
deal with a last minute problem that comes up. You've got your whole crew waiting around because you're the captain of the ship,
Yeah.
waiting for, like, okay, and then you have to figure it out. And I like that you took the time to step away, clear your head, because that, first of all, how do you operate without that? Like, you're
Right.
just in the moment, and you're asking yourself to be clear headed enough to think of what
Yeah.
are your options and stuff. Yeah, take some time, but yeah, you're every as you've been on set all day. You are compromising.
Mhm.
You're running against the clock. Oh, we have to cut this shot. Oh, let's just move this over here. And that's a skill you need to have, or you need to learn
Right.
uh, on the job. It's like you can't read that in a book
Mhm.
and and feel like you can handle it on a set with people.
Right.
Any other specific problems, like I like the we want to show blue hour, we miss blue hour, we can color correct. Or any other solutions that you can recall from your projects where it's like, okay, we didn't get this, but we were able to do this instead?
I think last minute edits, same with my senior thesis. I first had the idea. It was sort of like I thought it was complete, but then like we showed like the rough draft to our professor. Almost all of our film professors there. None of them like really understood it. And we had spent so much time on going through it. And it was devastating. All this time you spent on it, and they're just like, I don't get it. This doesn't work. Like I'm not really seeing what you're trying to get here. And then on top of that, there's another student. His film was just like two shots of two people having a conversation. So like one location, just two shots. And it was barely done in my opinion at that stage. And they're, oh, this is real good. I like the way you did that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to like 6 different locations, doing these at different times, and you're just ripping into me. But his stuff is perfect to you guys. So that's Tarantino. Okay, so I had to come away from that. That one that took a lot longer than a minute. It took me like a 3 days to like, okay, because it's just like, okay, obviously they've been doing film longer. They know something's missing. And personally, I was like, okay, I can understand that something's wrong. But I think one of the things is when you're making your stuff, reason why we have other people helping us, why we have editors, and why the director's not always the editor, is because you have to have other people realize you're married to this idea, like you create this and you're like, okay, so I'm like really attached to it. So when somebody says I don't get it, that's like, it doesn't feel like an attack on the project, it feels like an attack on you. So you have to learn how to separate those two things, and then, okay, so they're not saying my work is bad, they're saying they don't understand the work, and that itself is not really working out. So that's when I was, okay, And then I had to think, I was like, okay, well, what if I do it like in this angle where it's sort of like flashbacks? And so I was like, okay, let me do that. Reached out to my friend's mom, who's a therapist. So she could play like the therapist in my film. And like I had wrote out a script and I told her I just need you to record these lines. And she was reading over it. She was like, wow, this sounds like something like a real therapist would
Hmm.
actually, it's just good writing. And I was like, that's awesome.
Mhm.
And then have my actor come back for another day and reshoot some extra lines and everything. And it just turned out way better. Everybody saw it. They're like, wow, I know you're doing that. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, this is really good. It's like really better, everything.
That's awesome. That's great. I just love when like your previous story about the Leave a Message film, like when things don't
Mhm.
work out, but then your alternative works out better.
You're right. Yeah.
It doesn't always happen. Let's be real here. It doesn't always happen that way, but it's really satisfying when it does
Mhm.
because yeah, you're right. You are married to that idea. You are so connected to it. It's been in your head for however long, weeks or months,
Yes.
and it's trying to translate what's in here on the screen and make it work, and it's very difficult. So when yeah, I think that's key what you're describing, feedback
Hey.
from outside perspectives, not just your crew, not even just your actors, because they all have a connection, they have
Yeah.
investment in this
Yes.
project, right? You need somebody completely outside, and that's the test. And it hurts. It hurts, like you
Yes.
said, when it doesn't play, and when it feels like it's nothing but criticism after all your hard work.
Yes.
But it's it's essential. That's it's the painful part of the job, is trying to make it, because it might work for you. It works totally fine in your head, but unless you're making it for just yourself, just to watch by yourself, you're fine. You have to show it to other people. You have to make it. You have to make sure that it's communicating to other people. And if it doesn't, that's can be really, really frustrating. So sounds like you've had a lot of really good lessons on kind of like the quote unquote negative aspects of this work, but seems like you've emerged stronger, smarter, uh, better equipped to
Mhm.
handle it in the future. That's great. So what's next? You got a project cooking?
Right now, I'm mostly just focusing. I'm trying to start up my own production company,
Okay.
trying to get more into the film industry. And I do have like a project cooking, but that's like a long-term thing. I'm started writing like a script for like a feature-length film, but that's more of a, it's something that's, I know as I'm not going to shoot that anytime soon. It's just something that like I constantly need to be doing something, especially in film, or else I just like feel like I'll go crazy. And then I just, when I have these ideas, I have to like get them out there as quick as better. And so just being able to like write that script itself, sort of testing out to the lens of like which I can go, just try and test myself as a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
but also try and get out this production company, get some films under my belt. My senior thesis film is still on its film festival circuit. That should be done soon. And the funny thing about that is like every other week, I feel like I'm getting like a not selected notification. And I remember when I released Leave a Message and put that on its film festival run, that hurt. But right now, it's just like, okay, cool, not selected. That's just another one. Another one. I'll try to do better next time. Or it's like, oh, cool. So people watched it. If they say they didn't select it, they have to see it to not select it. And so, I'm like, okay, it's getting out there. Somebody saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
just trying to figure that out right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk about the production company, but also film festivals as a venture,
And
because it's tricky, because there's so many. They How do you choose which ones to submit to?
yeah,
What's been your experience? Like, what? So let's say someone who's just about to start submitting their film to festivals for the first time. What would
Mhm.
you recommend? Some advice.
I recommend try things local. Um, film festivals itself, submissions, they cost money to get into. And so when you do get accepted, it's always nice to go. So if you like submit local areas, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry much about travel and like housing and lodging and everything. So it's just like focusing there. Focus on personally, I think it was always best to if you like the more niche you could get with your submission. Because I'm from Florida, and when I was in college, I was able to submit. They had like categories. It was like best short film, and it was like best college short film. I was like, okay, cool. And it's like
Mm,
Florida college short film. I was like, okay, now that's something that's a little bit less people try to submit there. You know what I mean? So that was always like a good thing. The more like niche you could do, I think it's like it gives you a better chance to get accepted and get into that film festival.
totally, that's great advice. Because getting in is key.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it, right? Festivals cost money, right? So you could waste a bunch of money and submit to every festival under the sun, or you could save your money, use that money for your next project, only submit to the ones that you have the best chance at. And like you're saying, the better that festival or that category within that festival is
Yes.
to your actual film, the chances of you getting in are much better. And you never know, like you might get into that smaller section of that festival, but you never know who's at that festival. You never
Yes.
know, like the people running the festival see that and like, oh, whoa, this is cool.
Mhm.
So next year you have a different project. Maybe you're not in college anymore, so you can't submit to that, but there's a bigger category and they know you, and then there you go.
Definitely.
Production company, how is that going? What are your plans for the company? What have you done so far, like to get it going? I think it's a route that a lot of people are kind of considering these days,
Mhm.
which is I think is great because making making your own stuff is
Right.
rather than hoping somebody lets you make your thing. So
Yeah.
tell me more about that specifically.
So the name of my production company is iFilm Productions, spelled EYE Film Production Companies. And there's like a triple entendre. People like always love it whenever I say it's like first like I Film Productions, and EYE is like an acronym. It stands for Expand Your Exposure. So like expanding your exposure in a broad sense means like becoming more open to the world and everything. Inviting and accepting new experiences, and then you expand your exposure like in a film and camera aspect. It makes a dark image brighter, and so it's sort of like bringing light to the darkness. And so like
Wow.
most of the short films that I do recently have been like a focus on like mental health and
Mm,
men's mental health, and just trying to bring more awareness to that subject and topic, because I feel like that's something that like a lot of people are dealing with, especially
yeah.
like my age, people in college,
Yeah.
a lot of mental health issues, and there's such like a stigma behind it that people are like ashamed to admit it, or and that like makes it hard for them to seek help. And so if we destigmatize it and talk more about it, I think it would be better, and then you can get more people help. And
Absolutely.
so right now with that with the production company, I'm trying to get my LLC out right now, but all of the short films that I've like released, I have like put the iPhone production logo on to it, that it's under it, and then just trying to really focus on getting it incorporated, and then finally like doing short films, and then eventually bringing more people in to help me create this more of a creative and community space.
Mm, that's great. That sounds awesome. I love the concept behind it. The name is really good. I think you could. I mean, I like the idea that it's focused on a topic or a subject area or a segment, a demographic, as kind of thing, because I think that that will help differentiate you and your brand.
Mhm.
I think that's one thing. Second thing is think you might be able to like bring in other people, other projects, other organizations that are related to that mental health thing. I think that's a really good entry point for you. Like,
Yeah.
again, to differentiate yourself, but also like you have like a demographic that you're serving, but also that you could connect to like for work.
Yes.
Like maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a mental health facility
Mhm.
nearby that might want to participate with you, like
Yeah.
to help fund a project maybe, because now your goals are aligned.
Mhm.
So I think finding a specialty like that, an entry point is really key because there's so much content out there, so many
Right.
filmmakers and brands and production companies, honestly. But if you don't, maybe I've never created a production company, so I can't speak from experience. But it just seems like you'd have a better chance, very much like we were talking about festivals. If you have a focus, like a target,
Mhm.
like a really strong sense of purpose, and it's going here as a guide to get you through, kind of to navigate
Yes.
all this stuff. I think that's really important. It's like a compass.
Yes.
I wish you all the best, Justin. It's it's really I love what you're doing. I loved your film. I'm really excited to see what you do next.
Thank you.
We're gonna share your the link to your film, any other website or your production company information, your socials in the description. But thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your experiences with us. Uh, and yeah, again, I'm glad to meet you.
Me
Welcome
too.
to the Second Look family,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right.